Hello, this is Hannibal and Piper here from the Hannibal TV.com, and this is my very last Wrestling Observer review of my 30s because I actually turn 40 on Sunday, and Nova, who was the Great North Wrestling Women's Champion of Canada, actually backed out of the Great North Wrestling podcast this week. So I said, why not? I'll do the Great North Wrestling podcast this week with Piper on Sunday night at 8, and I will answer fan questions and questions from the new executive vice president of Great North Wrestling. And if you want to give me any tips for my birthday, I would greatly appreciate them because I have a lot of expenses lately. But if not, check in and say hello. But let me jump into my Wrestling Observer review. This was a historic week because it was AEW's first week ever in Canada, and none other than Jeremy Prophet, reigning Great North Wrestling Canadian champion, and Jessica Black, former Great North Wrestling Women's Champion of Canada, actually had the very first ever AEW match in Canada. They were the very first match of the Dynamite tapings in Toronto before a sold-out crowd. They were in a mixed tag team match, and according to Jeremy, he was all. I didn't watch the Rampage that aired tonight, but he didn't wrestle the second night as we see them in the ring there. But he did play a security guard on Rampage tonight, so hopefully something comes out of that for him. He's been wrestling for many, many years, and he was trained by Jacques Rougeau, who was also at the AEW tapings there, seeing with Chris Jericho, who looks a lot like Edge in that picture. But yeah, I'll jump into it with the WWE news. The Rock said on CBS News, it's definitely off the table. He's never running for president. Marty Jannetty, who I have 2 shoot interviews with and should be in the WWE Hall of Fame, if for no other reason for having the record of being fired. I believe he was fired 7 times. Might be 6, but I'm pretty sure it's 6 or 7 times by WWE. So he was talented enough to be rehired that many times. Jean LaBelle, who passed away last month. And by the way, there is an interview with Jean LaBelle on this channel if you search up Jean LaBelle, the Hannibal TV. His funeral was October 9th, and Ronda Rousey, who he trained, spoke at the funeral. And also in Ronda Rousey news, apparently for Extreme Rules, she wanted there to be thumbtacks in her match, but she was turned down, and apparently the WWE office said, quote, "We can't do thumbtacks anymore legally. We can't purposely injure people and cut their skin," end quote. So I guess that means their Extreme Rules pay-per-view wasn't really that extreme, and that must mean that they don't do any more blading. I mean, I'm all for it if they want to protect their wrestlers. I mean, in Hollywood, they don't ask people to really cut themselves. Everybody knows wrestling's fake, and so like they make enough money. They just had an incredible amount of revenue made, more than they've ever made. So why ask their wrestlers to injure themselves for real? Honestly, it's not like they're hurting for money. And let's be honest, they kick AEW's ass in business. AEW's still in the red while they're making hundreds of millions in profits. Apparently, since Logan Paul lives in Puerto Rico, where I used to live for a period of time, WWE has sent him a ring there, and I think Drew Gulak has come there to personally train him, to prepare him for his upcoming match against Roman Reigns. Apparently, Triple H is continuing to hire back a lot of talent that have been fired to quote unquote load up. Well, why don't you hire, instead of these people that you've already given chances to and didn't get over, and they actually got released, give new people a chance, like Jeremy Prophet, who, I'll be perfectly honest with you, is incomparably better than Kevin Owens. Just for whatever reason, maybe because Kevin Owens has power on who gets hired. Jeremy's never had a chance in WWE. But why hire back people that have had a chance and not got over? There's so many independent talent out there that deserve shots. It makes me mad when I see, like, there's been a bunch lately that, and some of them have had interviews on this channel when they weren't hired, done by John Paz, and some of these guys and girls, like especially guys, no girls actually, but have had like literally not even 1,000 views on their interviews, and they get hired back. I mean, the people that have done nothing on the independents, yet they get called back when there's people out there that deserve shots. But whatever. Elias is coming back next Monday on Raw. Apparently, Triple H didn't like the Ezekiel gimmick, so he's grown back his beard and hair. Cody Rhodes is working with DDP through this rehab time. Apparently, Dave Meltzer, whoever wrote this part of the Wrestling Observer, believes that WWE made a bad move replacing Nigel McGuinness with Booker T as an NXT commentator, because they feel Nigel McGuinness knows how to make people's stars better on commentary. But really, who out of NXT, honestly, has become a huge star in WWE? The last big star the WWE has made has been Roman Reigns. He was from FCW, Florida Championship Wrestling. If you want to say Kevin Owens, he's nowhere near the level of Roman Reigns. A lower level guy, but he's had opportunities against Austin and others. He was in NXT, but he had already been wrestling for years, since he was 14. Prior to that, wrestled for Jacques Rougeau, Ring of Honor, all over the place. So I don't know. I agree with replacing this Nigel McGuinness, who nobody other than the smart marks have ever heard of, with Booker T, because not a lot of people watch NXT or care about NXT these days. And maybe if they're flipping through the channels and they see Booker T on, they'll actually stop for a few minutes and watch, rather than Nigel McGuinness, who nobody knows. They're just going to keep flipping. Sadly, that's the way it works. Matt Riddle apparently appeared on a WWE podcast and says that his personal life is in shambles, but his professional life is amazing. Gable Stevenson is doing practice matches right now at the Performance Center. There's something about Gable Stevenson, even though he's been more successful as an amateur wrestler than Brock, he doesn't seem to possess that it factor. Like, I know that he did stuff in WrestleMania, and I don't even have interest in searching it up on YouTube, because the interviews and stuff I've seen of him just don't make me interested in him. So I know that they can push whoever they want, and they're certainly going to push the hell out of him. But time will tell if he actually gets over. But certainly, he's an amazing athlete. Gabe Sapolsky of the failed, what the hell? He ran a promotion that went out of business. Was it called Evolve? Perhaps. I think it was called Evolve. He and they only had like 30,000 YouTube subscribers. Apparently, this guy is now in charge of who gets extra shots on Raw or SmackDown. A guy whose company went out of business is now in charge of giving independent wrestlers looked at by WWE brass because he knows what to look for because his company went out of business. Dynamite in Toronto did a 0.32 rating, but they drew a sellout crowd of 7,500 with 7,100 paid. And again, Great North Wrestling wrestlers Jeremy Prophet and Jessica Black were in the very first match on that show. So I'm proud of them. NXT did a 0.15 rating this week, which is the best rating they've done this year, I believe, for their season premiere, featuring Booker T. So, yes, star power does matter. They did have some main roster stars on that show, too, I believe. I think it was Sheamus and some others, but I'm not 100% sure. Don't quote me on that. Raw's season premiere from the Barclays Center in Brooklyn had 10,100 paid with over 1,000 comps, 11,223 in the building, 0.55 rating. AEW Battle for the Belts did a 0.1 rating for their special. And they also did a Rampage taping in Washington for this show, and the Rampage did a 0.13 rating. They had 2,500 paid in the building, 28,000 fans total, so 300 comps. And that was a building that had initially completely sold out 3 years ago when AEW started. So definitely interest in AEW isn't where it once was for numerous reasons. SmackDown did a 0.54 rating from Worcester, Massachusetts last week. They had 5,500 paid in the building, 6,261 total. So Dynamite from Toronto had a bigger crowd than SmackDown from Worcester last week. Apparently, the Rampage AEW tapings in Toronto had 5,800 paid. So a couple thousand less than Dynamite, didn't sell out, but still pretty good. I mean, it's their first introduction into the market in Canada. I know there was people traveling from all over to go to those shows in Toronto, especially a lot of people from Montreal actually made the trip from Toronto because I got a lot of Facebook friends from Montreal, and I noticed a lot of them made the 5 or 6 hour journey to watch it. Apparently, for the people suspended over the backstage fight, CM Punk, the Young Bucks, Ace Steel, and Kenny Omega, none of them have stopped getting paid. So they got in the fight, and now they're all getting paid to sit at home, and all this money they've paid CM Punk, they're not using him on TV or to help draw fans to arenas. So who knows if he would have made a difference, but they did only have 2,500 in Washington, which is a building that holds a lot more than that. As Piper keeps asking me to pet her. She's a big baby. Fightful has reported that Paige, now known as Saraya, was let go by WWE before she started with AEW, and that Triple H had offered her a general manager position, which she turned down because apparently she was under contract for WWE for 5 years and not done anything, which Sid said in an interview, if you think about all of her sex tapes and all the legal stuff between her and Del Rio and all that, what did she have on WWE that they just kept her under contract and kept paying her for doing nothing? It's a weird situation for sure. AEW announced that Jon Moxley, who is 36 now, signed a 5-year deal with AEW that's going to include coaching young talent. He will no longer be doing advertised indie dates other than for New Japan. However, he'll still be able to show up unadvertised on indie shows, which if you're, I don't know, I know that'll look cool in the video. I don't know how much he charges for indie dates, but if he can't help with the actual draw of an indie show, I would imagine, unless he's working for one of his friends, that he would be at least 5,000 plus travel. To have him to pay that without being able to tell the people that he's coming, I mean, I guess you just have to have a lot of money to be able to afford that. Because if you couldn't advertise him and have him help with ticket sales for an independent company, I don't know. Unless you were a big YouTube guy like me, perhaps, although I'm not going to be promoting wrestling events anymore. I'm letting someone else take over Great North Wrestling, where maybe the YouTube video of Jon Moxley could make it worth bringing him in unadvertised. I don't know. It's an I never heard anything like that before. His wife Renee Paquette signed with AEW and debuted apparently over Toronto over the weekend. She says she will not be doing play-by-play, and apparently she did receive an offer from WWE to go back there as well. But obviously, AEW, her husband signed there for 5 years, so. And I'm sure Jon Moxley, the way wrestlers are, like wrestlers will hit on your girlfriends all the time. It's like, and we already know she likes wrestlers. She's with Jon Moxley. I don't think he would be like, okay, sure, go to WWE. You can be around oiled up guys that are probably going to hit on you, and I'll stay with this other company. I'm sure that it was a no-brainer to have her with him so they could travel together, and less chance of whether, I'm not saying there would be infidelity or not, but like I know how wrestlers are, and it doesn't matter to a lot of them if someone has a wife. They'll still hit on them. Hence why Macho Man was so protective of Elizabeth. He took it to an extreme, but yeah, I'm just saying I could understand why they stayed together. Impact had its biggest event of the year, Bound for Glory, from Albany, and had 650 total fans in the building. They did a TV taping at the same building the next night and only had about 125 fans total. And the show was delayed an hour because they didn't have an ambulance at the building, and the New York State Athletic Commission requires an ambulance. So that's pretty sad that some people consider Impact a major company and Albany's a major city, and they only had 125 fans total for a TV taping. And why are you not prepared to have an ambulance at the show? That makes absolutely no sense. Shows you the disorganization of that company. Which, by the way, I've said it before, I'll say it again. Bash Dixie Carter all you want. The company was doing a lot better under her than under Scott D'Amore, who's had it for about 6 or 7 years now. And 125 fans, and you delay the show an hour for a TV taping. I mean, that sounds like an indie show, or worse than an indie show. Antonio Inoki's private funeral was held on October 13th. There will be a public one taking place. By the way, I did post a podcast of Kevin Sullivan just talking about Antonio Inoki that John Paz did earlier today. If you want to check that out, I also posted a shoot interview with Mr. Kennedy, Petey Williams, and a bunch of others. So check them out. ODB. I'll be interviewing ODB myself soon as well. The former Lana will be a guest on VH1's Surreal Life, which is debuting on October 24th. I wonder if she'll make out with any men on that show, because when she was on the Raw TV show, her husband allowed her to make out with other men. So I wonder if it'll be the same deal here. MLW, who was teasing having an actual TV deal, has announced they are just doing a deal with another streaming service. So they have pretty much faded into the oblivion. In recent years, pretty much there was more buzz about MLW before AEW came, and then I think MLW is pretty much a dead brand these days. I know that, for instance, let's take a look here. Let me look at something just for the fun of it to see how good MLW is doing. Let's do some comparison. Let's compare the Hannibal TV to MLW over the past year. Let's take a look here. By the way, I am just randomly doing this out of curiosity. I'm going to show you guys something. So bear with me as Piper's burying something in my couch over there. Let's take a look here. Sorry, I'm just searching for you guys to give you an idea of the popularity of MLW through my analytics program. And I'm going to put it up on the screen for you as Piper's destroying my couch over there. Let's take a look. Let me remove this. Okay, so the Hannibal TV. Let me redo this because I didn't put the logos in, but I will show you another version with the logos. But as you can see, that's comparing the Hannibal TV with MLW. And you wonder why a lot of people always like to take shots at me, because I am an individual person, not rich, just an average person, still works a regular job, by the way. I still have a regular job. But this is over the past 12 months. I have about 33 million views. MLW has practically hardly any views on their YouTube channel. That's how dead a brand they are. So it's funny. It's funny. People can diss me all they want. People watch me. And by the way, the Blood Hunter was the number one heel of 2021. You guys say what you want. For all the matches the Blood Hunter had last year in Texas and some in Canada, he had tens of thousands of views. Some of his matches had hundreds of thousands of views. His match versus Scorpio from PCW Ultra had about 400,000 on Facebook. You can diss him all you want. Name other independent wrestlers who have never been in WWE that got as many views as Blood Hunter. But again, I'm just pointing it out. Has Tony Khan surpassed Money Mark status yet? Depends who you talk to. More ufologists, please. There will be. I agree. There definitely will be. Lots of comments today. My birthday is on Sunday, October the 16th. I am a Libra, and honestly, I did have a trip planned actually to South America for my birthday week, the 10 days surrounding it. That got canceled, but honestly, there's no one I'd rather spend my birthday with than my dog. And my parents are getting older. I like seeing them. There's many of my friends I have actually run into this week at the gym and stuff, and even seeing my ex-wife. To be honest, I'd rather be with my loved ones than in South America partying it up and getting into shape. I've had some good workouts the past few days. Malik Long is also a 1982 baby. Jason, yeah, I had a good day today. Very productive. Very, very productive. Goldust was fired many times by WWE. Like, I don't think Justin would have had as many of the opportunities he had if it wasn't for his father. I don't doubt that he's talented, but he went through a phase where he ripped off a lot of promoters, including myself. But he got second chances due to being Dusty's son. Carmen, Logan Paul bores the crap out of him. I do watch his podcast, and I do know why they're using him because they aren't creating their own stars anymore. Jim Johnson, the WWE theme guy, did an interview with John Paz that I posted on this channel yesterday or today, actually. And I watched it, and he was talking about WWE doesn't make stars anymore. So they have to bring in guys like Logan Paul, who are stars from other areas of entertainment to draw interest in the product, and it does work. But I did review the other week. I watched his in-ring segment with Sami Zayn and Roman Reigns and all those people, and it was terrible. It was lame and it was boring. And it's like Logan Paul is a very creative guy and he knows what's entertaining. Why don't you give him some input in what happens in these in-ring segments? I don't know how many times Sami Zayn referred to Roman Reigns as the tribal chief, but like, who cares if he's a tribal chief? Honestly, is this going to make me want to buy the pay-per-view that you keep saying this guy's the tribal chief? Like, he's. It's just like, honestly, he just kept on repeating that. It seemed like over and over and over again, with Logan Paul just like standing there, and it was just absolute crap. I only watched about 2 minutes of it just to say that I watched the Logan Paul thing, gave it a chance. No gimmicks guy says Prophet is one of the premier unsigned talents in the business today. I would say, oh, another funny thing. Okay, I'll bring this up. Apparently, Stu Grayson, which hardly any of you probably know. I only know because he's from Canada, and also Jeremy Prophet is 100 times better than him. Like literally 100 times better than him. He quit AEW a few months ago. He turned down an offer to re-sign or something because he felt he wasn't being used enough. And apparently he went back with the Dark Order this week in Canada. And it's like, this guy was so great and he didn't want to re-sign. But what happened when he wasn't signed? WWE didn't take him. I didn't hear anything about him on the indies. And now he's back in AEW. Meanwhile, Jeremy Prophet isn't signed. Why don't you give opportunities to other people? I don't know. It's a weird political business. Ivan Santos says Bianca Belair is probably the most over NXT alumni. There you go. I will take your word for it. And I would say you're probably right because I've heard her name a lot. Josh, I just said I'm not running any promotions anymore. I don't honestly have any interest in wrestling. I'm a YouTuber. I'm actually a professional YouTuber, and I'm gonna do interviews and other stuff for this channel and other channels, such as my second channel, um, which you guys can look up, the Hannibal TV second channel. But yeah, I don't really have any interest in wrestling anymore because, as I said, I'm turning 40. I've had a million concussions, and the most money I've made is with my brain. And my style of wrestler is not the style that they want in any of those companies, despite my popularity, as I showed you, out of the whole MLW, their whole company, my my channel literally whoops their ass. So, despite me being known in the wrestling business, I'm never going to get opportunities because I'm not a political correct guy. So, I'm better off just doing my own thing. Tony, the Blood Hunter is only going to return in the Blood Hunter movie that will probably be done next year for various reasons. It didn't happen this year, despite some scenes being filmed for it. Mike, my ex-wife, did not like calling Piper newborn. No, but she's a good person. She is a good person. She's just feisty, and actually, she is actually in charge of the Hannibal TV now. She's actually the official owner, and she's a better business person than I am, and I believe she will help the Hannibal TV grow more than if I was running things. I'm better off as a talent and producer. So I'm happy with the way things are going. We need me with a high school education is not the best person to be running a business side of things. My attention is best used on being creative. Thank you, Jason. I appreciate it. Mike D. Can we have shots of Pepsi together? Possibly. I'm not a big pop drinker. More road stories. I do have a ton of them. I've been in the process of writing a book for a while. There's a lot of stories that are going to be in there, but on Sunday at 8, when I do the Great North Wrestling podcast, I will actually answer fan questions, particularly tipped ones. Thoughts on Todd Pettengill? He was pretty good. He was a good promo guy. There's actually an interview with Todd Pettengill on this channel. Search up Todd Pettengill, the Hannibal TV. What about just like The Rock working with his ex-wife? Yes, I mean, my ex-wife has her law degree as well as other degrees. She's a much better person to be running the business side of this company. So we've still remained friends. So I'm happy with that situation, but there's obviously going to be a transition period. And right now we're bringing everything back up to level. And then I think for 2023, it's going to be a good year. Thoughts on Jerry Saggs? Well, I recently posted a YouTube short version of Ken Shamrock talking about the incident where Jerry Saggs basically bashed him from behind with an old school telephone that knocked him out, apparently almost killed him. According to Colonel Robert Parker, his head was like the size of a basketball when the paramedics got to him. But the bottom line is, do I blame Jerry for using a weapon? Ken Shamrock kicked their hotel room door down, and I do believe that Knobs was legitimately passed out. I don't believe Ken Shamrock's version that Knobs woke up and double teamed them, because I've hung out with Knobs on quite a few occasions, actually. And I do know he drinks a lot. And he said he was on pills that night, and I've heard he was a pill user. So I have no doubt that he drank and took pills that night and was passed out. And Jerry's hearing Ken Shamrock about to bash down their door. Can you blame him for taking a weapon and protecting himself? I mean, I do believe that that's what happened. I don't believe Ken Shamrock was double teamed. Crazy story, very crazy story. I would like to hear Jerry's version of it, but he might run into Shamrock at autograph sessions. If you notice my version of when I asked Knobs about it, Knobs was like downplaying it. He's clearly wants this dropped because he may have to run into Shamrock again, and they would rather that is not fresh in Ken's mind. So I'd be surprised actually if Jerry ever talks about it on camera, just for the sake that they might actually run into each other. Yeah, that would make a great action scene. I agree. Wish everyone a wonderful weekend.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please like this video if you enjoyed it, and click the subscribe button to not miss any of our latest shoot interviews.
What's going on? It's not closing. I don't get it. Weird.